This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler of Gary Financial. Logan just happens to be the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer, and we're going to talk about, as we always do, getting you to and through retirement. Logan, I hope you're doing well. You've had a great week and ready to go again.
Yeah, had a great week and ready to go, like you said, and looking forward to a great show.
We got so many interesting things to talk about today. First of all, the most interesting thing on my plate is your phone number, as always, 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526. But easy way to remember it is by using the word PLAN. We all need one, 888-823-PLAN. You can have a discovery meeting, no cost at all, no obligation whatsoever. More on that a little bit later on. Logan, do you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to take an Uber somewhere?
Yeah, definitely. I tend to travel quite a bit for work here and there, and also on family vacations, there's definitely been an Uber taken once or twice.
Yeah, for sure. Uber drivers are accustomed to finding items that were left behind in their vehicles, some more unusual than others. The company recently released its 8th annual Lost and Found Index that surveys drivers to find out the most common and the most unique items that people leave behind. Most common items include clothing, wallets, headphones, and phones. Some of the more unusual items include a toupee, a container with spiders in it, a tray of meat pie, and a jar of oysters. Some Uber drivers found that left behind. So, have you ever left anything behind in an Uber?
Well, I thought I hadn't, but now thinking about this, there maybe was something I maybe did leave behind here or there. I didn't even know about it. But
maybe a tray of meat pie?
Yeah, no kidding. What I thought was funny was, they have a consumer price index for inflation, for volatility of the markets. I mean, they got indexes for everything. And now I know they have an index for lost and found items, right? Which is pretty interesting by itself. But no, I would assume, you look at different taxis and things like that throughout the years, I would assume there's probably some pretty interesting or gross stuff probably left behind.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, as you're saying here, Uber's probably no different. But no, I can't think of anything specifically I left behind that I actually needed, per se.
If you were an Uber driver or a Lyft driver or a taxi driver, you'd find all kinds of interesting things, I'm sure. And we don't even know the half of it. How well do you know the answers to some of the more important retirement planning questions? Certainly a lot more important than what we've been talking about here. If you don't know the answer to the majority of these questions, there's a good chance that you have some work to do. If you're listening to the show today, you've certainly taken the right step, but how much do you really know how much it costs to fund your lifestyle? And that's really one of the first questions you ask people when you get together with them. How much money do you spend now? And, how is that going to relate to what you do in retirement?
Yeah, I think when you look at the overall structure of an income plan, which again is a majority of what our firm does. We work with a lot of people that are typically, they've saved up money, they're in a good spot financially, they have money put away, but they're, hey, I'm 5 years out from retirement, or I'm 10 years out, or maybe I'm just about to start. How am I going to retire, right? And a lot of it comes down to, well, what do you want to do? Well, I'd like to travel, play golf, see the grandkids, right? Buy some things, work on cars, whatever it is, right? All of that is a lifestyle that would cost money, right? That's the $1 million question there. And so I think many people, they need to really figure out a way to look at how to fund their lifestyle. And what I mean by that is, what type of income and what sources of income do you have coming in to help fund it? And I think it's very funny because a lot of the times people are drastically off, whether up or down, of what they may actually need to fund that lifestyle, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a lot more than you might think, or sometimes a lot less. But I think it's really important to have a good idea and a really clear plan of, okay, what do we plan on doing? What do we envision retirement looking like? And then, what type of income sources are we going to have to fulfill that goal?
I'm going to ask another question of our audience here, and then I'd love for you to weigh in on it. What do you need your net worth to be before you retire? What do you say to that?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of a tricky question, right? Because it is one of those things where you really actually don't need to focus on the overall net worth, right? I mean, because you could have a ton of money, right? We have clients that have, millions of dollars, and that's great. However, it really needs to be focused on how much do you need your investments to perform, or how much do you need them to produce that structure of income, right? How much income do you need is really the question, right? And then we can say, okay, here's about how much money we would need to produce that income, right? If you have the proverbial $1 million saved, right? Yeah. Well, that might be not enough, right? It might be more than enough. I have some clients that have, $400,000 or $500,000, $600,000, and it's enough to, with pensions and Social Securities or rental properties or other income sources, it's enough to fulfill whatever income goal they may need. I have some clients that have $2 or $3 million, and unfortunately, it's not enough for what they need, right? They need more. And so they got to continue to work and save and look at other sources, or potentially cut lifestyle in retirement, right? Maybe do a little bit less and things like that. So I think a lot of what we focus on is not necessarily how much assets we have, but how much income do we need? And then we can figure out what type of assets we have and what type of realistic income is that going to produce.
I want everybody to just think about this for just a second, because I think it's important. What did you learn about financial planning from watching your parents? I think everybody gets some kind of an impression about how to deal with money from, just observing what their parents did.
Yeah, and there could be different lessons, right? I mean, as far as that goes, maybe some that they do that you say, well, that's really smart. I should do that, right? Maybe they invested, or maybe they bought property, or maybe they were just smart with money. Which is great. Or maybe the other way, right? Where you're like, well, my parents were awful with money. Yep. And I want to make sure I put myself in a good spot where I don't have to worry about money, right? Or I'm able to educate myself, or work with an advisor that's going to educate me. Maybe you learn that way, right? But I think there is a lot of really good lessons we could learn from not only our parents, but people around us, right? Maybe we all had maybe an uncle or an aunt or a brother or somebody that was maybe a little more successful, or was maybe a little more in tune with finances, right? And I think we could all learn something from somebody. And so I think having that lesson learned is very important. And I always tell people you should be talking about saving money and investing and things like that as early as you can with your kids and things like that, just to get the ideas rolling and get things going. Because as we always say here on the show, right, the earlier you can start, the probably better off you'll be.
Oh, absolutely. You're listening to Logan Sadler on the Financial Beat. Logan's number to call, once again, if you'd like to get acquainted, is 888-823-PLAN. We're talking about how much you know about various topics. And here's another question for you. How does what's happening in the news this week affect your overall retirement plan? What answer should they have, Logan?
Yeah, I mean, here, I always say this, right? If you're watching the news and making exact adjustments to your portfolio today based off what's going on in the news today, you probably don't have a very clear-cut, long-term investment plan or retirement plan, right? It really, yes, it should have some overall census of, okay, here's kind of what's going on. However, when you're building out an investment, right, when you're building out your overall retirement plan, most of our clients don't want to have to wake up every day and go, Logan, I get $5,000 a month from my investments, let's say, right? They don't want to wake up and go, am I still going to get $5,000 a month today, or are we doing something different because the news was bad, right? That's not normally the most well-constructed retirement plan, right? You don't want to wake up today and find out if you're going to get a paycheck or not. What I think you need to look at is there's always going to be some type of political, culture, foreign affairs, always going to be something that's going to adjust risk or make an impact to the overall markets. And I think what's really important is when you're building on a retirement plan, making sure that you're using diversification. We talk about it all the time. We've heard about it a lot. But a lot of people, they still have, okay, I'm diversified. I have 80% in the market and 20% in bonds. Well, there's other asset classes, right? There's other bonds, there's other stocks, there's other mutual funds, there's different types of ways to diversify a portfolio and also use some sources that might have guaranteed income to help produce a more stable retirement. That way you don't have to wake up every day and wonder, well, is my paycheck coming in the mail this month or not, right? You want to be much more of an ideal type of situation than that.
Yeah, and one question that a lot of people don't even like to think about it, and they certainly haven't come to any kind of conclusion. How will you cover nursing home expenses if that's where you end up and you need care? We all know it's expensive. Logan, I know that's one thing you can help folks with as well.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, and we always talk about this, right? One of the 5 pillars of our retirement plans that we do build is looking at the long-term care aspect in healthcare planning, because it is one of the more important ones that, again, I always say is never the fun thing to talk about, right? No one really comes to my office and goes, man, let's talk about long-term care for 2 hours, right? They don't really, it's not normally their first thing that comes out of their mind, right? Normally it's what type of stocks do you guys use, or what type of mutual funds, or are annuities good, or taxes, or whatever it is, right? Long-term care does sometimes take a back seat. However, it doesn't mean it's not important, and it doesn't mean we don't need to have something in the plan to be able to address that. Now, when looking at long-term care, just because you have a long-term care policy or a large nest egg, that doesn't necessarily mean your healthcare plan is all taken care of, right? We got to really look at what type of policy is it? When does it come in force? How much is it going to pay? How much of our investments do we need to use, right? All of the other stuff is super, super important to look at as far as if we do have a plan, what type of income and things like that, what type of assets do we need to have in place to be able to take care of a long-term care situation happened.
It's important to try and put some barriers between your health and your wealth because, long-term care costs, medical costs in general, they have bankrupted so many folks out there who thought they were in good shape, in the beginning. So that's one of the things you'll talk about with Logan Sadler. Logan, what other things will you talk about with someone when you get together with them for the very first time?
Yeah, the nice part about it during our discovery meeting, when you call into our show and come in for the very first time, basically you're going to leave a voicemail on our phone line there, and you'll get a contact from somebody from our office that'll reach directly out to you, and they're going to schedule a time for me and you to sit down, whether that's in person or jump on a Zoom call. And at that meeting, we really get to talk about a lot of the stuff we get to talk about here on the show. However, it actually pertains to your situation, right? A lot of you say, well, that's great, Logan. I know I need a solid income plan, but how much income do I need, right? I know, Logan, I know taxes are important, but what type of tax planning should I be doing, right? All of those important things that you may have questions on, we could actually answer and go over during our discovery meeting, and also show you some of the tools and strategies and some of the other solutions that our firm uses to make sure that you and your family are put in a better place to make sure that you have that ideal retirement you were hoping for. So give us a call. I'd love to sit down and spend an hour with you and go over how our firm could potentially add some value to you and your family's retirement plan.
888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call for Regary Financial and set up one of those discovery meetings that Logan is talking about. You can do it on Zoom. You can come into one of the convenient offices. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call either way. Of course, Regary has offices in Hemet and Redlands. Logan Sadler is the guy you hear on this show and the guy who would love the opportunity to get to know you and to help you get to and through retirement. You're listening to The Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler. There's more on the other side of this timeout.
Are you concerned about living too long? Do you worry about the cost of health care in the future? These are a few of the signs that permanent life insurance could be for you. Logan Sadler of Regary Financial will help you recognize the rest of the signs. Text the word ADVICE to the number 21000 to download this free guide to understanding permanent life insurance. Text ADVICE to 21000. Permanent life insurance isn't for everyone, but it could make a dramatic difference in your financial life. Text ADVICE to 21000 to find out if that's the case.
Picture this. You're about to embark on the journey of a lifetime. You've been working hard for years, and now it's time to explore the world and savor the fruits of your labor. But wait, before you can set off on this epic adventure, you need to plan, right? Without a plan, you might get lost, or you might miss out on activities that you want to do. Think of your retirement as your most exhilarating expedition, and think of your financial advisor as your trusted travel companion. Just like a seasoned traveler researches destinations and creates a detailed itinerary, we'll help you assess your financial situation, set goals, and build a customized retirement plan. We'll ensure that your retirement roadmap can get you where you want to go, no matter where your journey takes you. Make sure that your retirement is the adventure that you've always wanted.
Call Regary Financial at 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526 for a complimentary financial review. 888-823-PLAN.
What is your name?
I'm Arthur, King of the Britons.
What is your quest?
To get retirement ready.
What is the PE ratio on your portfolio's top grossing products?
I don't know that.
Don't get blown to bits by complex jargon. Let Logan help you over the bridge to a meaningful retirement.
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat. Ladies and gentlemen, Logan Sadler is here. And Logan, of course, works with 3 different generations of client families at Bregary Financial. Many of those clients have been around here for a long time. They've been with the firm for more than a quarter of a century, sometimes even longer. They have great partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists, all those folks to help offer you well-rounded guidance in all things financial for you as a client. You can arrange a discovery meeting, no cost and no obligation, simply by calling 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526. But to help you remember that number, go ahead and write it down right now, 888-823-PLAN. Better yet, go ahead and call at this moment. Leave your name and number on the message machine, and you'll get a call back, and pretty soon you'll be talking to Logan Sadler. Logan, we always talk about crimes of the week on this show, lots of stupid federal crimes on the books. It would be impossible to count all the federal crimes on the books, but we're always looking out for our listeners to try and make them aware of these federal crimes so that they don't run afoul of the law. So, here's one that I think a lot of people may be in danger of committing a crime in this situation. You realize it's a federal crime to sell canned whole mushrooms if the mushroom stems measure longer than the diameter of the mushroom cap.
Nope.
Why would that be a law?
Isn't that funny? That's for we always talk about that, right? But on these ones, it is just funny because it's like, how did they even come up to this? Somebody must have done something crazy, right?
Yeah, must have. I don't get that, but just make sure if you're selling mushrooms, make sure the diameter of the cap is longer than the stem. So
note to self.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. Hey, a lot of talk about the NFL draft this weekend, and in honor of NFL draft weekend, it's time for our annual financial draft. So, Logan, let's look at some of the hot prospects on this year's draft board. You tell us if each item is a surefire superstar that should be a first-round pick, a possible contributor worthy of being drafted in a later round, perhaps, or not worthy of being drafted at all. Maybe not even signed as a free agent or anything.
Uh-oh.
How about a Roth IRA? Is that draft worthy?
Oh, man, that's the... If it's an option on the table for those of you out there, you got to take it, right? It's got to be one of the first picks. I would say it's got to be a number 1 pick. Got to be, right? Because why? And let's talk about that, right? The upside, what do you do with a draft pick? The whole point of this is to have upside potential, right? Yep. And now, obviously, with the Roth IRA, it depends on what you're invested in the IRA, obviously. Different stocks or bonds or mutual funds or whatever you have in it can make things better or worse. But example, the Roth IRA, what is that? It's over time, it typically would pay you the best reward. What I mean by that is it grows at whatever rate of investment you have it in. It grows tax-free, right? If you hold that till retirement age, that thing is never taxed again, right? So any money you take out of it for income after retirement, I should say, is tax-free. Also, if you pass away, it's tax-free to your heirs, right? So not only is it good for you, but it's also good for the family, right? So when you look at draft picks, that has to be a number 1 choice.
Well, also, it's almost a sure thing that taxes are going to be higher in the future than they are now. So,
Yeah, exactly. That's like drafting. I'm trying to think. That's like drafting like a LeBron or one of these players that's going to be good for multiple decades, but actually longer than that, right? And also good, even if LeBron's not around anymore, it would still be good, right? Because it's tax free to even your kids after that. So it's a hard one to beat.
Okay, how about gold? Would you draft gold?
It's not a bad thing. If it was late in the rounds, there was nothing else left, I would definitely put it on the table. But, it's one of those things that over time it's done well. There's different ways to do it. There's physical gold. There's also ways to hold it through, funds like an ETF or a mutual fund. But, it can have some purpose. Commodities and things like that can add some diversification. But it would definitely not be like a number 1 pick on my list per se.
Next on the list here, cryptocurrency. Would you draft crypto at all?
Yeah, it's one of those ones where after I've done what I needed to do, like let's say I got 2 or 3 draft picks in this draft, right? It could be on the table, but I definitely am not taking it 1, 2, or 3, right? It'd be over some other things. You want to make sure you got your emergency fund, you're contributing to your retirement accounts, all that's going well. And then, hey, if you had some extra cash left over and you were interested in that type of market and you understood it, then yeah, why not? You could put a little bit on the table, but definitely not one of the first things I would do.
Yeah, don't bet your children's future college education on it. That's for sure.
Or you might have them pay a little more than just your money you lost, right?
Exactly. How about an indexed annuity? That seems draftable to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think if you're in the retirement phase or maybe even you're a little bit more risk adverse or just looking for some extra safe money, an annuity can be definitely a good pick for different people. Of course, depending on how much you want to put in there and your assets and all that. But yeah, there's a lot of pros and cons to an index annuity, right? You look at the fixed index annuities provide you really, really good upside to the market. Not all the market, but some of it. And the nice part is they give you a 0% floor, meaning if you have let's say you have a cap of 10%, right? Mm-hmm. On the S&P 500. If the S&P does 12%, perfect, you made 10 in that scenario, right? If the S&P does minus 20, you don't lose anything.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, well, I don't get all the upside, but you don't get any of the downside. So it can definitely serve as a purpose for some people in their retirement plans, of course, depending on goals and risk and all that stuff. And also some index annuities can also provide some income, right? So some of them pay out like a pension. So those are definitely one of those things that I think can be pretty multifaceted for some people in their retirement plan. Everybody might not need them, but hey, if you got a team that's well built, you got a good big man, a good point guard, and you're looking for a good shooter, those annuities can maybe be a good fit in something like that.
You're listening to The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. 888-823-PLAN is Logan's number if you'd like to have a discussion about your financial situation and about getting to and through retirement. Because everybody's been talking about the NFL draft recently. There's been a lot of draft talk. We figured we'd have a financial draft here today, and we've talked about several items: Roth IRA, gold, cryptocurrency, an indexed annuity. How about a rental property? Would you draft that very high, or would you draft it at all?
Yeah, I mean, rental properties for the right people can be a good thing, right? So depending on what your team is looking for, I know many people that have done really, really well with investment real estate, and it's been a really good income producer. There's a lot of tax advantages to it, and it's, obviously there's equity built in that over time if things go right. So it definitely could be a good asset class. However, there is a certain type of person out there, which is a lot of people, that might not, be as savvy to be able to do it. They might not want to do it. They don't want someone living in their home. They don't want to be a landlord, all the stuff that might come with that. And that's okay too, right? So I think depending on the team and depending on the person, it can definitely be a draftable asset class, but you got to make sure it's something that you want to do and are interested in, and also making sure you know what you're doing.
One more I want to mention here, and that is a vacation home of some kind, maybe a house at the beach or a house in the mountains. Is that something you would draft in a really good portfolio?
Yeah, for the right people, that could be a good thing. The problem is most of the time we don't use it as much as we think we're going to use it, right? We always say, I'm going to go up there every weekend. Then we go once a month, once every 2 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The cost, the maintenance of the home and things like that are something to consider. So it's something for the right person. Yeah, sure. Who doesn't love going to the mountains or the beach or whatever case it might be? However, if it's going to be too much money and it's actually out of the budget and is going to hurt the plan, you probably wouldn't want to draft that in your thing. So that one, I would say, kind of just depends on what type of situation you're in and also how much you're going to use it in your plan.
Well, maybe you should talk to Logan Sadler about your own financial draft. Maybe you've had some of these things on your mind and you have questions about, an indexed annuity or a rental property, or maybe you're thinking about buying some kind of a vacation home. Maybe you've considered buying gold or investing in crypto or a Roth IRA, which, again, Logan says should be a number one draft pick. If you want to talk about any of these things, why not give Logan's office a call? And Logan, we always call it a discovery visit, but what exactly is it you're discovering about folks, and what are they discovering about you when you get together?
Yeah, great point. At our discovery meeting, what we're able to do is we actually just get together, go over. Some of you out there are looking for an advisor or looking for a team to say, hey, listen, we have put away some investments. We're done well for ourselves, but we're looking for a team to help put all these puzzle pieces together, right? I got Social Security. I've got annuities. I got Roth conversions. I got, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all these things running through my head. But I need to get an income plan, right? I need to look at tax. I need to look at all this. What do I do? And that's where people come to us, and what we're able to do is help put all those puzzle pieces together for your retirement plan. But it all starts with that discovery meeting where we just get to know each other and see if our firm and you would be a good fit for our firm, and if we'd be a good fit for you and your family, to see if we're the right team to help get you to and through retirement.
If that sounds good to you, call this number, 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526. But that's 888-823-PLAN. To have a conversation with Logan Sadler. That number, of course, is for the offices, Ruggieri Financial, 2 convenient locations, Hemet and also Redlands. You can meet with Logan in one of those places, or you can have a Zoom call with him. Either way, just have a virtual get-together. But again, there's no cost and no obligation for any of that conversation. 888-823-PLAN. He's not going to try to sell you anything, put you into any particular kind of product at all. Just kind of get to know what your situation is at first and get to know you. You can get to know him. 888-823-PLAN. We have some great questions coming up from some of our listeners next on the show. You're listening to the Financial Beat. We're going to take a quick time out, and we'll be right back.
At the end of the day, no one truly understands your financial wants and desires better than you. That's why it's important to have financial independence. This means you can work when you want, you know exactly where your income is coming from, and most importantly, your finances are stable. If this sounds like something you want, well, text the word ADVICE to the number 21000, and Logan Sadler and his team at Ruggieri Financial can provide you with their free guide on achieving financial independence. The free guide will show you how to create an action plan for getting to where you want to be. It'll explain how to calculate a financial independence goal, and it'll define what an ICE egg is and why it's so important. Download it now by texting the word ADVICE to the number 21000. Again, text the word ADVICE to the number 21000 to gain your financial independence today.
When it's used in a soundtrack, music can help highlight and influence the emotion of a movie scene. If the soundtrack isn't just right, it could distract from the scene or undercut a dramatic moment. Just imagine if this was playing during a Rocky Balboa training montage. Or what if this was the music playing during every shark attack in Jaws? Those classic movie moments probably wouldn't be so classic if the music wasn't right. Just like a movie needs the right soundtrack, your retirement needs the right financial plan to make it work. Your financial advisor can help orchestrate a financial plan that will support your retirement lifestyle so that your retirement soundtrack will sound like this.
Call Ruggieri Financial at 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526 for a complimentary financial review. 888-823-PLAN. Do you want to learn about retirement planning but don't have the time to listen to an hour radio show? Well, check out the Financial Beat YouTube channel. It might be just what you're looking for. The channel has over 100 videos, all between 5 and 10 minutes, so that you can learn about retirement planning quickly and efficiently. They're all hosted by Logan Sadler, the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Ruggieri Financial. Maybe you need some help dealing with inflation's impact on your portfolio. Well, check out his video titled The Shocking Impact of Ignoring Inflation. Just go to YouTube and search for The Financial Beat.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat. Ladies and gentlemen, the beat goes on, as they say. Logan Sadler is here. And Logan not only has this radio show that he does on a regular basis, but there are podcasts you can catch up with and also YouTube videos out there. Logan, how do folks access all that good information?
Yeah, you can head over to the YouTube channel, type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, and it'll bring you right there to the YouTube channel where the podcasts are uploaded there, as well as the YouTube video. So we do a video here each week on a bunch of different retirement planning topics that many of you have asked about on the show, or we talk about during our discovery meetings. So we talk about things like how to create a more tax efficient retirement, how to utilize Social Security, how to build an income plan, a lot of those, fun topics you guys were asking about. We do a quick video for you there on the YouTube channel, show you some examples and things like that. So head over there to the YouTube channel, click the Financial Beat, and also follow along.
And as well, if you've been listening to this radio show on a regular basis, you know that there are old shows that are always available for you with podcasts. And, you don't want to miss any of those things because Logan has had some very important things to say from time to time on the show. So check him out. Logan Sadler at Regari Financial. The number to call is 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. And Logan would love to sit down and talk with you, either via Zoom or in person. And Logan, I got a fun fact of the week here. I'm not really sure this is a fact. I'm not sure this is really relevant to anything that we'll talk about here today, but humans are the only animals with chins.
Hey.
I don't know about that. Don't dogs have chins? Other animals?
Yeah, you would think. I mean, you really got me thinking here now. I don't know if I can finish the show here because I'm visualizing all these different animals. I would think there's more with the chin, but hey.
Well, like
fun facts don't lie, right?
Primates, they have chins. Yeah, that
Very
doesn't
well
make
put.
any sense. I read that this week, and not a very reliable source. I guess.
We'll have to fact check it, huh?
Well, I guess they made mistakes. Somebody did. But, let's talk about how people make mistakes. We often talk about some of the common financial mistakes that people make, but it's also important to understand why and how people make the mistakes that they do. Tell us some stories, Logan. I know you got plenty of these, about times you've seen people make mistakes for the following reasons. You've seen somebody who made a mistake because they didn't seek out help when they should have sought out help. I know you can relay some instances of that happening before they came to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's many different things that kind of come to mind during that. And one of the things that most people, again, what we deal with most of the time in our firm is people that are in retirement or about to be retired or, in that red zone, as we call it, maybe 5 years or so before. And, we see a lot of people that were at that time, unfortunately, in your retirement years or pre-retirement years, the mistakes, they could just be extremely dangerous to the overall impact of your overall financial health, right? And then, unfortunately, can sometimes impact your overall health, right? So one of the things I always tell people is when, we deal with people coming in, they're getting ready to retire and things like that. Some of them say, well, I'm going to do it myself, or I'm going to use this person or whatever it is, right? Sometimes they all have good intent, right? Nobody plans to make a mistake or to not do the best they can. But, some of these people, one of the ones I'm thinking with where they were both, getting ready to retire. They ended up retiring, had saved well. They had about $2 million put away for retirement. And, we had talked a few years ago with this couple about, hey, let's look at some tax planning things. Let's look at some Roth conversions. Some of the investments that they had were not as good as what we could have done in some other areas and things like that, right? Obviously, there was a lot of improvements on the investment side. And then also they really wanted some guaranteed income. So we were looking at maybe a small portion of their investments in maybe annuities or things like that for income. And just kind of going over the whole plan of things and telling them exactly, based off their income, they could have gotten, a pretty easily around $150,000 or so a year of income and things like that, right? Well, they ended up liking the plan, but they said, I think we're going to go a different direction and things like that, which happens from time to time, which is fine. Unfortunately, though, this couple came back about 5 years later, right? And in this situation, they had taken out way too much money for some other things that have came up, way too much money for income. They didn't really diversify much of their investments. So when they went into the certain investments that they had, like they had some bonds and then they had some stocks that really didn't pan out well for them, right? So they underperformed a lot of the indexes and things like that. And so in their situation now coming back, they were drastically different than when we talked 5 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And in this situation, it was like, remember that whole plan we talked about before? A lot of that's off the table, right? You're 5 years older now. We're closer to RMDs. We also have less money now because we made some bad mistakes, took some money out at the wrong time. And so in this situation, there was just so many things where this plan now is completely different of what we could have accomplished 5 years ago by just not going with the right person, right? Or not going with the right team. And so I think when you're looking at investments, you really want to make sure that you're seeking out help and that you're seeking out the right help to be able to guide you and your family through these tricky situations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's a situation where, we see this all the time. Folks make big mistakes, huge mistakes, because they listen to the wrong people.
Yeah, and that goes back to kind of what I was just saying, right? But also, I mean, you look at, we've talked about it here on the show, right, Ron, with even the mailbag questions where it's like, well, my brother said, or my neighbor's friend's cousin's brother was a financial advisor, right?
Yeah,
and they said I should do this, right? And the big thing is I see it all the time where people listen to the wrong people, and it's not because the people are trying to, and I shouldn't say not all the time, but most of the time, it's because they're not trying to hurt you or give you ill intent or anything like that or bad advice. They just think that's what's right. However, they don't do this all the time, right? When you talk with a financial advisor that actually specializes in retirement planning and has helped many, many people through retirement, manages lots of money, and is able to say, hey, here's what we've seen work over a period of time, and here's what we've seen not work over a period of time, right? There's actually some checks and balances in place to make sure that we're not just giving you a yes or no answer. We're actually doing the due diligence, the planning, running the numbers, and making sure that everything we're recommending is working out, right? Not just in the good environments, but also during bad market environments, crazy interest rates, and all these different things that could happen, right, throughout your retirement plan. And so you want to make sure when you're listening to somebody, you're listening to somebody that's, number one, has the education level, the experience, and also the advice that is going to be needed to be able to get you through some of those scenarios. So picking the right person or the right team to listen to and help guide you through it, to me, is as important as anything else.
Well, another situation is folks make mistakes because they didn't know what they didn't know. I mean, some people, come to see you for the first time and really don't know the right questions to ask and that sort of thing. And, they say what you don't know won't hurt you, but that is not true in the financial world.
Yeah, well put. Not true, right? And so, like you said, I mean, I'm thinking of somebody right now where I had somebody we met with, and they didn't really know much about IRAs and stuff, and they're like, I'm going to leave it all to my kids, my 401ks, all that. And I'll probably spend some of it in my retirement years, right? Well, in this situation, they didn't, right? They had a really good pension, good Social Security. They had a lower, living style where they didn't really need much money. And he had about $600,000, $700,000 of 401ks and IRAs, which is a good chunk of money. And, Ron, guess what? He didn't know about these things called RMDs, right? Required minimum distributions. He also didn't really, he said he had kind of heard about it, but didn't know the specifics. And he always thought, well, you know what? I'm going to let my money sit and grow. And if I pass away, we'll leave it to my daughter and my son, right? Perfect, right? Well, all of a sudden, if he'd have met with us in his 60s, right, we'd have told him many different things to do differently to help that situation. But in this example, that $500,000 grew to, over $1 million. And guess what? It's all taxable, right? Yep. Now it's all taken out as ordinary income through RMDs. And if he passes away, all that money is left to his kids, all taxable, right? And as many of you know, they got to take it out over 10 years, and it's all taxable to the kids. So there was some small tax planning we could have done in this situation, knowing, hey, we got a pot of money that's tax deferred that we're not going to be using. Let's start looking at how we can get some of that money out and pay some taxes now at lower rates potentially, and put it into some more tax-efficient investments, right? Little things like that where the things you don't know can actually end up hurting you more than the things you knew, right? So it's important to really rely on an advisor, again, that's been there, done that, and is able to provide that expertise to you.
I sort of gave you a little preview on this next one accidentally. They didn't ask the right questions to get them to the right decision. And I was saying, that most people don't know the right questions to ask.
Yeah, I mean, that's super important, right? I mean, the funny part is, what questions do people ask? What's your fee, right? Or how much money can I make on my returns, right? That's what most people ask, which, again, those can be valid questions. However, most of the time, right, they're not asking, well, what's the risk of my portfolio, right? What if my account went down in a 2008 scenario? What could happen? What if I needed to start drawing income? What type of income can this realistically produce? And the next most important question, how long, right? Yeah. And also, hey, taxes, right? I got some money put away. What is my tax situation going to potentially look like in retirement? Yes, we don't know exacts because tax rates change, but we can at least get a little bit of an assumption, right? We could at least put together some data to look at that. And so like you said, Ron, you put that perfectly, where those of you out there, if you don't know the right question to ask, it's just as bad as not asking it, right? Because you don't know what's coming, right? Or you don't know that you're preparing yourselves. And so I think it's super important. And that's part of what, again, working with a good team is there to provide to you.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Logan Sadler, as always, here on the Financial Beat. Logan, of course, with Regary Financial. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to have your own one-on-one conversation with Logan. Right now, we're discussing how people make mistakes, and sometimes those are really serious mistakes. Sometimes they didn't take enough time to understand their options and made a decision too quickly. They just rushed into it without really, truly understanding it. I know you've seen people do that.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things where, they meet with I had somebody the other day, literally, this is not a joke, right? Where I always say, we have a 3-meeting process where in our first meeting, we'll talk with our clients, we'll go over, or the people interviewing our firm, our prospects, and they'll say, hey, what type of investments do you have? What's your risk tolerance? We go over a whole questionnaire, and then we take all that back to the table, and we really build out a financial plan. We get back together. We go over the financial plan. We'll answer your questions, right? And then we get back together for the third time, and we'll say, hey, again, here was the plan. What questions do you have? Does this sound like something that's going to benefit you and your family, right? And then we decide if we want to move forward there. I had a client the other day that was on the Zoom with them, and they were about 4.5 minutes in, and they said, okay, perfect. Just recommend something to me. We'll kind of just do whatever you want to do. It's like, no. Let's go over a plan, right? Let's make sure you understand the plan we're presenting, and let's also make sure that I understand you enough to present a plan, right? It's super important that you don't just rush into these decisions. You don't want to take too long, but you also want to make sure that you understand what it is you're doing, and also what it is your overall plan is going to look like.
Mm-hmm. One final question here, and this is how people make mistakes. They took too long to make a decision and missed their chance to do what they needed to do. I guess, they may have suffered from paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, I mean, that's the total opposite end of the spectrum of what we just talked about, where some people move too quick and some take way too long to make a decision. And one thing I always tell people, and this is not a sales tactic or anything like that as far as to get people to hurry up and come on board with us. That's not what it's about. I always tell people, we typically have a 3-meeting process that we'll go over with our clients. Discovery meeting is typically 1 week. The second meeting is typically the week after or the following. And then the third meeting is typically a week after that. So, I mean, it's a 3-week, 4-week process where you go over, you get plenty of time to look through things, research what you want to research. And then after that, it's like, hey, is this going to make sense? Is this going to be a good fit? Then you can decide to move forward. But you don't want to be meeting with an advisor or looking at an investment or a recommendation for a year, 3 months, 6. I mean, after that, you forgot what you even were trying to do, right? You don't want to look too long. You want to make sure you're getting the information you need to make an informed and educated decision. And then obviously you got to go with which one you think puts your family in the best situation, and not harp on it for decades.
If you want to arrange to get together with Logan Sadler, all you got to do is call 888-823-PLAN. If you're calling during the show today, all you need to do is leave your name and your number. You'll get a call back from the good folks at Regary. And Logan does have an outstanding team there, folks who are ready, willing, and able to help you get to and through retirement. What will happen is you can arrange a convenient time to have a conversation with Logan, either via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices, but that's not going to cost you anything. It's not going to obligate you to do anything either. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. 888-823-PLAN. You're listening to the Financial Beat. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler, and there's more coming up on the other side of this timeout.
Are you worried about whether you're ready for retirement? Logan Sadler and the team at Regary Financial can help. Just text the word ADVICE to 21,000 to take Regary Financial's free Retirement Roadmap Checkup. Text the word ADVICE to 21,000 and we'll send you a link to all of our free resources. From there, you can click on the button for the Retirement Roadmap Checkup. You'll just have to answer a few questions, and then you can see how prepared you are for retirement. This is a great starting point for people just starting to think about retirement. Text the word ADVICE to 21,000 to get your free Retirement Roadmap Checkup today. That's the word ADVICE to 21000.
It's getting to know you time.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. And Logan, this is our Getting to Know You segment of the show. I always love doing this because we find out, we unpeel some of the layers of your personality. So,
Good and bad.
How much do you know about your family tree?
You know what? That's a great question. I was actually just having this conversation with one of my aunts, who's probably a lot more up on it than I am. I would definitely like to know more and more about the family tree, and I'm learning a little bit more each year. But I don't know nearly as much as I think I should know. I've narrowed it down to where our last name comes from, and it's from the Irish English descent over that way. But I just don't know. It doesn't go back as far as I thought, or I don't know as far back as I thought I should know. And it's funny because a lot of you guys out there with these Ancestry.coms and things of that sort, it's so interesting because a lot of us have heard, I have some Native American, and then you do those tests and it comes back you don't have any, right? So it is quite funny. So I'm looking into doing that, and same with my wife, because our grandparents have both done it, and we were interested to see how much of each of that we got. So to answer your question shortly, I don't know as much as I thought I should know.
Yeah, all these years of my last name being Stutz, I assumed it was German. And I found out it's not at all. It's
Don't you hate that?
Yeah, no. It's like England and Scotland.
Wow. Okay.
And no German ancestry in there at all. So you never know. You just got to find out one way or the other.
That's the most interesting part. A lot of us have been told these stories from our family for years and years, and now now we're fact checking, right? And we're finding out it's not necessarily true.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the way the name sounds. I mean, that's definitely sounds German, but it's not. So can't judge a book by looking at the cover, I guess. So
no kidding. So that's my thing, is to get further educated on the family tree.
Yeah, maybe I should do the same thing. We'll be back with more in just a moment on the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler.
Retirement is a lot like preparing a delicious meal. Just like every great dish needs a recipe, your retirement needs a plan. Think about it. When you're cooking, you gather the finest ingredients, follow a recipe, and carefully prepare your dish. In the same way, retirement planning starts with the right financial ingredients and a plan to put them all together. Your financial advisor is like your culinary guide to retirement. They are here to help you choose the best financial ingredients, mix them skillfully, and simmer them to perfection. Just like seasoning a meal to taste, we'll tailor your retirement plan to your unique preferences and goals. Maybe you prefer a dash of travel, a pinch of relaxation, and a handful of family time. Whatever your recipe for retirement looks like, we'll make it happen. And when the time comes to serve, we'll ensure that your retirement is a grand banquet, complete with the finest financial dishes. Bon appetit!
Call Regary Financial at 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526 for a complimentary financial review. 888-823-PLAN.
Did you know music is good for the heart? A study at a university in Italy showed that music helps promote a better cardiovascular system. But we also know that a sound financial plan is good for peace of mind. Keep listening to the Financial Beat so we can help you find a plan that both your head and your heart can agree on.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Regary Financial, serving you wherever you happen to be in Southern California. Got a quote of the week here for you, Logan. I know you're going to like this one. Napoleon Hill said this. This is not Napoleon Bonaparte, but another Napoleon Hill who did not have his hand inside a shirt. Plan your work and work your plan. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
It really does. We tell people this all the time. Simply just write down your goals, build a plan. You'll be amazed what you accomplish when you have something either written down or you have a goal to achieve. You typically feel a lot better about yourself whether it's losing weight or whether it's getting up earlier in the morning or whether it's saving for retirement. So having a goal and having a plan to work for, it definitely it's proven fact where it just keeps people more on track and definitely keeps you happy as you check that box off as you accomplish that goal. So definitely agree with Napoleon on this one.
Very basic knowledge here, and Napoleon Hill had it right, that's for sure. Plan your work and work your plan. We're going to be back with more in just a moment on the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler.
Are you tired of feeling like taxes are draining your bank account? Do you want to keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket? Then download Logan Sadler's 2023 Guide to Tax Planning. This guide is your key to tax optimization and is filled with expert advice, the latest tax laws, and strategies for reducing your tax burden. With the help of Regeri Financial and Insurance, you can rest assured that you're making the most of your retirement savings. Just text the word ADVICE to the number 21000 and get the guide for free. Just text ADVICE to 21000.
1, 2, 3, 4!
When musicians are performing, they typically need someone to count them into each song. Without that count in, the musicians might be out of sync and the song could fall apart. It's similar to your financial plan. All of your investments must be in sync, working towards your financial goals. Keep listening to The Financial Beat and learn how to make sure that your investments are playing together perfectly.
We're back now with more of The Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz. He's Logan Sadler. This show is always so much fun to do because Logan really brings a few interesting stories every time. And, it's a nice conversation to have, kind of an informal conversation. And you can have the same kind of conversation about your individual financial situation. All you got to do is just set it up, 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. Logan, of course, is the VP and Chief Investment Officer at Regeri Financial, serving you wherever you happen to be in Southern California, 888-823-PLAN. Every week, our listeners send in questions. We'll get to those in just a second here, but a little history lesson for today. 357 years ago, April 27th, 1667, well, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Blind writer John Milton sold his copyright to Paradise Lost for £10. He needed the money because he was completely broke at the time. And I guess that just points out the fact that even if you're writing a piece of famous literature, some people get desperate and have to do desperate things in order to get by.
That's awful.
Yeah. Wow.
Man.
I don't know what £10 would be equivalent to in today's money, but doesn't sound
that's a good question, right?
Yeah, really. So, I'm not writing anything really important that's going to be famous hundreds of years from now, but, I think I'd try to sell it for more than £10.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's go to the mailbag here. Get some good questions. First one is from Daryl in Elsinore. And Daryl says, my plan is that most of my retirement income will come from dividend-paying stocks. Is there anything I need to know that could make this a bad plan?
Yeah, great question there. I mean, thank you, Daryl, for writing the question, and that's a good part. I mean, so for having the income plan from dividend-paying stocks, there is some use to dividend-paying stocks. I like having them maybe as a part of the income plan. However, one thing I always tell people, the big issue with dividend-paying stocks is there is some really good companies out there that have paid them for a long time. However, a lot of these dividend-paying stocks increase or decrease or reduce or slash dividends, right? So one thing is if you're okay with your paycheck, and by paycheck I mean the dividends you're getting for your income going up and down, right? Or maybe not being as consistent as you might not like over a period of time, right? Dividend paying stocks can be a good way to generate some income, but I don't like them being the only income plan, right? I like to have a good portion of our income guaranteed, whether that's Social Security, pensions, or annuity income. Those are three great sources to help have at least a good chunk of it. Then you have obviously market appreciation, like through growth stocks, dividend-paying stocks, bonds, treasuries, and we also use a lot of structured notes and real estate investments for income producing as well. I like to say you want 3 or 4, maybe 5 different sources of income, not just from dividend-paying stocks. They are a good use in the plan. However, you don't want to put too much of your income reliant just on dividends. So, yeah, Daryl, give us a call. Come in. I'd love to kind of go over with you what our income plan kind of looks like, and for your scenario, what it would look like, and go over to make sure that we have a little bit more of a consistent plan. Again, there's many companies out there that have done well and paid a consistent dividend, and we do use dividend-paying stocks, but it is one of those things to look at and make sure that we have more than just dividend-paying stocks as part of the income plan.
Good question today from Daryl, and this next question I really like a lot because it represents what a lot of people are going through right now and a lot of people are thinking about. It's Tim, and Tim is in Palm Springs. Tim says, the housing market in my neighborhood is still really good right now, and I'm tempted to put our house on the market and get top dollar for it. We're going to retire in 2 to 3 years, and we'll be moving at that time anyway. Of course, I'd need a place to live for the next 2 to 3 years after selling. Would it be dumb to rent something for that period?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Tim. That's one to we got to unpack here, right? So probably be better in a meeting, but hey, I'll try my best here on the hotline. But I think you're not alone on this, right? There's a lot of people kind of contemplating this right now. If you're out here in California, like you said you are, it is one of those things where it is a rather booming real estate cycle we've been on, and there is many places across the U.S. as well too, right? But it is one of those things where it is tempted to put the house in the market, get as much as you can for it. I have had many clients decide to do this, right? Where they take their money, they cash out, make $500,000, $1 million, $100,000, well, whatever it is. They park that money in, a money market, a CD, treasury, or investments, or wherever we put it. And, that's there for them in the next year or two when they decide to move. The biggest thing I always tell people with that is you got to make sure when you do that, once you sell your home in California, it's very, very hard to rebuy in California, right? Especially after a few years go by. Yep. So we got to be very committed to the relocation process, right? Meaning we are going to go out of state. We don't know where. Maybe we have somewhere identified. And we have a strict line of, okay, it's for sure going to be close to 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is. If not, if the real estate market kept going up, you could potentially lose out on more value, right? So that's one thing to consider. The other thing is, if the real estate market went down, you did cash out at a good price, right? So it's one of those things where there's a few different scenarios you got to run and also look at the overall plan of it. But you're not too far off there where, no, it's not a crazy idea. I have a lot of people do it. It works very well for them. However, you got to make sure for your situation that the timeline and the money and all that would be right to make sure we're doing what's best.
Tim, great question, and all that advice goes to everybody out there who might be contemplating this very thing. Call Logan Sadler's office and set up a time to talk more about this, because that's a very important decision to make. One more question today, Logan. It's from Kate in Riverside. And Kate says, my goal was to get to $500,000 in my 401k before I retired, but I'm only at $420,000 right now, and I don't think I'm going to have the patience to work more than another year. How much does a person need to have to be able to retire comfortably?
That's a great question. Kate. And I don't blame you. A lot of people's patience wear thin, especially towards the end, right? I always say it's like when you're running, you ever ran a mile, right? And you go around the block, and when you're in the middle of it, you're like, hey, I got to keep running, I got to get home. But as soon as you see your house, you're like, I could just stop here and walk back, right? It's like one of those things, and that's kind of how retirement works, where, a year or two away, you're like, yeah, okay. And then as you get closer and closer, it's like, well, I could just maybe go now, right? I think when you look at what type of income, definitely that's why you'd have to come in and we go over your situation more specifically on this one. But in our earlier segment, we talked a lot about sometimes, a number amount, $500,000, that's great, but depending on your risk tolerance and what investments you use, that might produce a good amount of income, but so might 420, right? And so what we could do is get together, go over your risk tolerance, decide what type of investments and planning tools we got to use to get you what type of income you might need. And then we could decide before you do it if this is a good time to retire and if the money's going to be right. We do that all the time for clients where they're thinking about retirement, they have saved well, and they're in a situation where they go, you know what, I just kind of want to run some numbers, meet with an advisor and a team and see if they're a good fit to help me, and also see if the numbers work out to where it's going to be a plan that I'm going to be successful with. Maybe it's not now, maybe it's a year from now or 2 years from now, but at least you know, right? You won't know until you give us a call, come in, sit down, and let's go over your situation and see if we are, number one, a good fit for you, and also making sure that the numbers work out in your situation and make sure you're able to achieve what you want to achieve.
Logan, I was just thinking, if somebody asked you that question about how much am I going to need to be able to retire comfortably, that question is likely to be different for every single person who asks that question, because we're all unique.
Yeah, all unique, right? It's like, do you have kids? Do you want to leave money behind? Do you want to spend it all? Or do we want inflation-adjusted increases? Do we want to be risky? Do we want guarantees? Right? I can go on and on with the questions that we would have to ask to make sure that, like you said, that we're figuring out what's best for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, if you have any questions for Logan Sadler, or if you'd like to show up for a get-together with him for a conversation in person, or if you'd like to set up a Zoom call, call this number, 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. That is your number to call right now, and leave your name and your phone number. You'll get a call back from the team at Regary Financial and set a convenient time so you can get to know Logan Sadler. He would love to get to know you. That's why we call it a discovery meeting. You discover things about each other. You decide if you'd like to go on from there. There's no obligation to do that. Just all you're obligating yourself to do is to have that initial get-together, and there's no cost either. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. Logan Sadler and the folks at Regari Financial serving you wherever you are in Southern California, and they would love to help you get to and through retirement. One more time, that number, 888-823-PLAN. Logan, it's been my pleasure to hang out with you today. I know that we've put together a pretty good informative show here, and I thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Ron. Appreciate each and every one of you listening. And as I say each week, I cannot wait to be back here next week and do another show.
The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. One more time to reach Logan, 888-823-PLAN. I'm Ron Stutz. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Regari Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. and BD Financial Group, Inc. are separate and independent entities. The information provided in this presentation is presented for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor does it constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities.